Today in Bahrain, a government judge sentenced prominent human rights activist Nabeel Rajab to 3 years in prison. The charges are for his participation in, quote, illegal gatherings related to a protest in the capital Manama in February this year. Rajab is president of the Bahrain Center for Human Rights and is a key figure in the protest movement that prompted a harsh crackdown from the monarchy in the Gulf state, a key U.S. ally in the region. Amnesty International says Rajab is a prisoner of conscience and is calling for his release. For more, we go to Sanjeev Bery, Advocacy Director for Amnesty International's Middle East and North Africa region. Welcome to FSRN.
Thanks for having me.
So today the judge sentenced Rajab to a 3-year term in prison. What are the charges?
Well, the charges all stem from a series of protests Nabeel Rajab was involved in earlier this year, and the 3-year sentence in jail comes on top of a 3-month prison sentence that he's already serving after having been convicted of libel in response to a tweet where he criticized the prime minister. And so it's just yet another example about how the government of Bahrain is using the power of its prisons and its court system to imprison activists who are only guilty of freedom of expression and freedom of association.
And with this latest 3-year prison term, what are the conditions of his sentence? Does he need to start serving that right away? Is it known where he will be?
Well, it's presumed that this will just be a continuation of the current prison sentence. Nabeel Rajab is in prison right now already on the conviction that resulted from him tweeting criticism of the government and tweeting some criticism of a community that had received the prime minister of Bahrain in a public event or a public situation. And so as a consequence of that, he's already in prison now, and that is already a violation of his basic human rights. You shouldn't go to jail just for tweeting criticism of your government. And these 3 years are an even more harsh prison sentence on top of the pre-existing.
Now, can he appeal either one of these decisions?
I believe that his lawyer is planning an appeal, and that his lawyer has stated publicly to the media that they're planning an appeal. But it's worth remembering that the convictions themselves are fundamentally unjust. He's being convicted of charges related to public protest. The Bahraini government has claimed that there are, legal ways to protest and illegal ways to protest, but what they're doing now is increasingly simply saying no to any request to protest. And so when they're criminalizing freedom of expression and freedom of association, they are essentially violating the core human rights of people like Nabeel Rajab.
Well, as you note, the government has said that it is not keeping people in detention based on these same kind of charges, but there are still others besides Rajab who are detained and awaiting verdicts. There were 21 political leaders and activists who expected verdicts earlier this week. That then the court postponed that until beginning of September. What's the latest with others who are in detention, others who are facing charges?
That's a good question. I mean, it's worth pointing out with the 21 that you're referencing that the verdict was on the appeals. So they're actually, a good number of them are already actually in prison right now. One of the most jarring examples is an individual who's given a 5-year sentence who is of the same Sunni religious faith as the government and was in an opposition group that brought together Sunni and Shia voices and representatives and engaged in criticism of the government. When that person has been put in jail as well, it demonstrates that the government of Bahrain has no real interest in reform or even reconciliation. They're slamming the jail cells shut on those who are speaking out.
Sanjeev Bery is Advocacy Director for the Middle East and North Africa with Amnesty International USA. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.